Hi, everyone. So I'm going to talk about what's wrong with travel. Like, we've heard a lot. There's a lot of great things. We all love travel. But I really feel that, this topic doesn't get talked about enough because we do love travel in general. The benefits outweigh the negatives. But I think to move forward, we need to look at both what's going well and how we could be doing better. So I think there's a couple of, phases to travel. There's a planning phase. We look at a lot of brochures. We look at Instagram photos, just photos our friends have shared. And then we come up with the dream of the destination. And, and this is part of travel as well, because it's not just, winning the lottery and dropping into the place. It's that work you did in sort of finding that right place to go, choosing that perfect hotel and all the activities and whatnot. And so we have this image in our mind of, what it's going to be like when we go there. And then the reality is you and like thousands of other people had the same idea on the same day. And it's not just limited to that, actually. There's a lot of other sucky parts to travel that we don't get to talked about much, but are definitely part of the experience as well. So, long lines, like is that a great use of your time? The few weeks that you have off from your work, you're going to stand and basically get no value from being, spending hundreds of dollars going to that place. There's also a lot of tourist traps. So I would say, if you look at it on the whole, travelers don't tend to have the best food, entertainment, etc., right? And you can, this, if you look at when you're in Toronto, do you go to any of the heavily kind of touristy areas? No, you don't, because you know that, that the best food isn't there. The best entertainment is not there. So, but it's a tourist bubble that people get caught in, and there's a lot of marketing and a lot of industry that's directed to travelers, and then all of a sudden you find yourself at Madame Tussauds, and you're like, okay, I'm here. I just did that. There's also the feeling of just being lost and feeling vulnerable, of like not knowing how to get around the city, feeling disoriented when there's language barriers. You're kind of navigating a minefield of scams directed at, you don't know who to trust, whether the person is genuinely being friendly or they're trying to rip you off somehow. So there's all these negatives that aren't really talked about much. So you might be wondering, well, why does everyone think travel is so awesome then, if there's all this negative about it? So I think there's a degree of confirmation bias that goes on. Like you've spent hundreds of dollars to go on this trip, and you want it to be worth it. You don't want to think that you wasted your money. So I think that's part of it. You'll rarely hear an MBA grad talk about anything negative about about their program, because you're really just harming yourself by damaging the MBA kind of like the perception in the community. So there's also a sense of escape, because at the end of the day, at least you're not working, right? Like it is a total, different experience. And so there's already something to feel happy about. You're not working, and it's an escape from your everyday. There's, humans are, we want to experience new things. So anything new is going to be appreciated. This is why people They want to go to new places, even though it's a risk, right? You may or may not like it. You could go to that place where you've gone before and you had an awesome time, and you would probably have the awesome time again, but there's the desire for novelty. And the last point, just around being travel consumers. So just as we collect, goods like possessions, like cars, we buy things, and travel is part of this too. So even though it's an experience, you're collecting sort of destinations that you're going to. And you see this with the concept of bucket lists and just in the way that people talk, like I did Paris, like check that off my list, and now I can put that on my wall and tell everyone that I've been there. So it's about and there's a kind of maybe it's a kind of addiction too. Like you kind of get this hit of, I've you get some reward regardless of how your time was during the trip. You come back. You'll at least have some great photos to share. You'll be able to tell your friends about it, and overall, looking back on it, you'll probably think of it as a positive thing. So, and then you've done that once, and you want to do it again and again. So, I think there's part of that too. So, I think that the problem with travel, this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like the travel industry is really good at meeting our physiological needs, right? So this is food, shelter, I don't know, like clothing. Obviously, you bring your clothes. So the basics are met. And I would say safety is met most of the time too. Because the scams, like it's really about, usually you're not like, your life is not threatened. It's more like someone stole your wallet. So I would say that safety is met as well. But it stops there. There's this whole rest of the pyramid that doesn't come into play at all when we travel. It's actually like we're having to turn off our human needs when we travel because we have no social network. Like we may be traveling with someone, but that can go south pretty fast too. But there's plenty of people who travel solo now. So there can be a lot of loneliness, but basically travel industry has done very little on the top three, well, most in the industry. So with a lot of these points, like it's not like it's something unknown. People are demanding this. Travelers are demanding more authentic travel. So that's become the new sort of buzzword. But now you've got all kinds of players talking about authentic travel, including cruise ships, which, they have hundreds, thousands of passengers, but they still talk about how their travel is authentic. So it's, the words have become a bit meaningless. But I would argue that even if you think of it as like authentic travel as what it should be thought of, it's still a little bit of a continuation of the whole travel consumer problem. It's like, there was a time that just going to Paris was enough. It was a unique enough experience so that when you came back, the stories you told, the photos you shared, they were all amazing because your neighbors hadn't been there. And so just going to the place and doing whatever you did was enough for it to be something that set you apart and something that's, unique. But now that everyone is traveling, it's, how do you keep that unique? How do you keep that fresh? So this I think is what has been the motivation behind the growth of authentic travel, is like how to make people feel that their travel is unique and and so that they don't feel like, because it's also about the stories you share when you come back, right? The experience is also about sharing it with your friends and all of that. So I feel like it misses the point of the social needs that I just talked about earlier. So I really feel that it is addressing social needs that's going to make travel better. And I would say that most in the industry are missing this point, but Airbnb, the most recognized player, is embracing this fully. So in 2014, they did a complete rebrand with a new logo and a new slogan, "Belong Anywhere." And I was like, it's like they just tore that directly from my notebook. But it's great. I think that they are bringing more recognition to a new way of traveling and kind of making people aware of their unfulfilled needs when they travel. But they're not alone. Like, Couchsurfing has been around since 2003, which is like, so it's clearly a community that understands the importance of the social aspect to travel. And of course, don't want to be self-promotional, but Lokafy is a startup that I started way back in 2013 as a side project, and finally quit my job about a year and a half ago to pursue full-time. And our mission is to change travel to make it more about the people we meet and not just the places that we see. Okay.
Thanks, Kiran. One question I had was, you had Maslow's chart, and we were far away from self-actualization. What would you recommend to some more traditional travel companies that are out there? What do they need to do to augment their product so that their customers are reaching that self-actualization?
Can you give me an example of a traditional company?
Oh, well, let me see. Who's not here?
Because for some, I think it's not possible. So it really depends.
Well, Kentucky, I know, is having a meeting off-site, so no one's here tonight. So we'll say Kentucky Travel, since they're quite common.
So Kontiki, so they do, the bus tours around Europe and maybe other countries. I guess the social needs of when you're on a bus full of other travelers is being met to a certain degree, right? Because you're with all these people, and it's kind of like being in university again, but you're traveling at the same time or something. But I think, they are kind of addressing that social aspect on that way. But when people travel, they have this idea of, not just connecting with other travelers, because those are the same people I could have met at home, but also being able to connect with locals. So could there be a way for Kontiki to, I'm thinking like bus full of people, so maybe have this event where all of the university students are there from a town, and everyone can mix and mingle and really get to know what young people do in that country, right? Mm-hmm. So that would be a cool experience to add.
Great. Anyone else have some questions?
So companies like Airbnb and Couchsurfing generate revenue by taking a cut out of the financial transaction between the user and the host. Yeah. How does Lokafy generate revenue?
Yeah, it's very similar. So Couchsurfing is actually free, so they don't have any financial transactions, but they earn money through getting you to verify your account and stuff. So, you get extra access to, you get a little badge, which says verified. So, but Airbnb is a marketplace, and Lokafy is also a marketplace. So you pay for the experience of booking, having a local meet you in the city and show you around. So you decide how long you want the tour to be, and then Lokafy gets a part of it, and the local gets the rest.
Thank you.
We have time for one more question. I'll go right in the back since I've been hogging the front.
Hi. Just wondering, I just checked your website on my phone. I'm not sure if it's the full site, but I only saw 3 or 4 destinations. I was wondering what the plan is for expanding your network.
Yeah, so we've been working on a website update for a while, but it's still a work in progress. We are doing tours all over the world now, so it's kind of unfortunate, but we've done tours in over 40 cities in the world, and so soon on the website it'll be a lot more obvious that you can do Lokafy tours in any city in the world, actually on demand. So with at least 3 days notice, we can find a great local for you to meet wherever you're going.
Great. Thanks so much, Kiran. That's great.